Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm probably best known for this book here called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You can see it in big. And this is my tax advisor, Tom Wheelwright, and he's infamous for his book, Tax-Free Wealth, right?
Exactly.
So today we're going to talk to you about what's happening in the economy and why it's very important today that people be proactive and start rethinking their life and money. About 1996, I began working on this book here called Rich Dad's Prophecy. And Rich Dad's Prophecy is a very important book simply because I predicted that in the year 2016, and by the way, that's this year, the whole economic system would start to collapse. So the reason financial education is more important than ever before is because if you're still in old school, obsolete, still thinking that you should save money, get out of debt, invest in a house, and invest for the long term in the stock market, you might get wiped out in the next few years. So I said, it was about 20 years ago I made this prediction, and more people are agreeing with this prediction. It may not be exact, but already you can see the whole foundation's crumbling. So today, Tom and I will be talking to you a little bit about what's going to cause the thing to crumble, why it's almost guaranteed. There's another book that just came out. It came out in 2016, and it's this book here. It's written by Muhammad Al-Aryan, and it's The Only Game in Town. And what he's talking about in The Only Game in Town is the collapse of the central bank system. In other words, where we get our money from. So it's a very important book, and he said the collapse would come in 3 years or less. In other words, 2019 to 2016. So the reason the Rich Dad Company was founded was because, due to my studies with a man named Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, I could see this crisis coming. We're in the middle of it right now. We are coming down. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? You're still going to work hard and save money. And what if you lose your job? Why would you save money? The governments are printing money. Why would you invest for the long term in the stock market if the stock market comes down? It doesn't make any sense. So that's what the Rich Dad Company was founded for back in 1996. We're here in 2016. And the reason we want to speak to you today or talk to you today is how and why you should prepare for the coming crisis in the economic system of the world. Any comments you want to make, Tom?
Well, yeah, so it's a little scary. I mean, I talk about taxes all the time, and the only thing we know about taxes, they're always going to be there, and they're probably going to go up. So that's the one certainty that you've got with all the uncertainty with the economy.
Yeah. Except if you have financial education, you can pay zero tax. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Those with the right financial education can reduce or eliminate their taxes.
So that's what the Rich Dad Company was created for, was to provide you financial education. We're not saying it's easy. I'm not saying everybody can do it. But with the right financial education, even if the market crashes, you can make more money going up, but also you don't have to pay tax on it. That's what financial education is. It doesn't work all over the world.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what country you're in. All developed countries, the purpose of their tax law is to give you an incentive to do what the government wants you to do. So as long as you're doing what the government wants you to do, you're going to get tax breaks.
For example, in America, if I donate to charity, I get a
tax deduction.
If I own a house, I get a
tax deduction.
If I go to college, I get a
tax credit.
So all these things work here, and part of being financially educated is understanding tax law, right?
Oh, that's exactly right.
And it's because of Tom that I make millions of dollars every year and pay very, very little in taxes, because to me that's smart rather than working hard and paying most in taxes, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you work in a job, if you follow the old school of, go to school, get a job, you're just going to pay higher and higher taxes.
So Tom and I will be traveling around the world this year, and he and I will be doing talks on financial education, primarily from the viewpoint of taxes. Because if you understand taxes, you know how to play the game of money. So if we happen to be in your part of the world, please come see Tom and I, because it's about your financial education and, more importantly, about your money. So today what we're specifically going to talk about is a very important subject. It's a subject I went to school for, and it's called oil. Okay? I went to the United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kingsport, New York, and my major was ocean transportation, naval architecture, specifically in oil tankers. So I know a little bit about oil. But the beauty about oil is that oil is about money. More wealth has been created than in the tech world with oil. Also, the thing about oil is war. Oil means war. And if you look at why is the Middle East, why is terrorism so high today, why are so many people fighting, it's because of oil. So that's what Tom and I will be talking about today, and its influence of oil upon your money, your life, and our future. So before I go on, Tom, would you mind talking about the tax advantages of investing in oil?
Oh my heavens.
Because I invest a lot in oil, right?
You do. You invest in a lot of oil, and there are huge tax breaks, and that's because the government wants us to drill for oil. I mean, that's basically it. The government doesn't want us to buy oil stocks. Rather, the government wants us to actually drill for oil. So the tax benefits come from investing with an oil driller, somebody who's actually producing the oil.
So I don't get a tax break. I used to work for Standard Oil or Chevron, but I got no tax breaks investing in Chevron stock or Exxon or BP. But if I invest as an entrepreneur, a professional investor in oil, I get tax breaks, right?
Right, and that's generally true. If you're the entrepreneur, you get the tax breaks. If you're the stock investor, you're not going to get the tax breaks. I went to school at the University of Texas during the big oil and gas boom of the early 1980s, and so I've also spent my whole career talking about oil, and particularly when it comes to the tax breaks. And the tax breaks in the U.S. at least are phenomenal because the U.S. policy is drill for oil here and take the risk, and we'll join you in that risk and we'll give you a tax break.
For example, if I invest $1 million in an oil project, drilling project, what kind of tax breaks do I get?
Well, so you're going to get an immediate tax deduction of about $800,000, which is worth about $350,000 to you right off the top.
Yeah, 35% return day one. So when somebody tells you, oh, my stock went up 5%, I go, you're a loser. If you know what you're doing, you can make a lot more money, take a lot less risk, and pay a lot less in taxes. So over this coming year, Tom and I will be we'll be traveling the world talking about how oil, taxes, money, all of this affects our life, but also this here, war. Today, we're at war because of oil. So first of all, let's talk about oil and war. Being Japanese American, I'm fourth generation, but we had a thing called Pearl Harbor. Japan attacked America. And people think it was for the Toyotas. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor simply because just before that, America cut Japan off from oil. So without oil from the United States and from the surrounding world, Japan had to go to war and start attacking countries that had oil. When I was in Vietnam in 1972, people kept saying we were fighting to stop communism. That's not true. We were at least I was in Vietnam fighting for oil, again, war. And we wanted to make sure that China did not get Vietnam's oil. So when anybody tells you this BS, blue sky, that we're here fighting for freedom and all that, that is a bunch of lies. We are fighting for money, oil, goes to war. During World War I in 1914, Archduke, whatever his name was, massacred or shot in Austro-Hungary. And the reason, again, was for oil. Because what England wanted at that time in 1914, they wanted a little country called Mesopotamia. Today, Mesopotamia is known as Iraq. And the city they fought for was Mosul. And guess where ISIS is today? Mosul. So when anybody ever tells you that we're fighting for the freedom of people, that is not true. But it's not really oil we are fighting for, because there's plenty of oil.
Right.
What we're fighting for is for the U.S. dollar.
You know, in 1971, of course, Nixon took us off the gold standard. And at that point, then now our dollar's not backed by anything. What do? So in 1974, the U.S. goes to Saudi Arabia. And they say, look, we need the dollar backed by something strong. And here's the deal. We will give you all the arms, we'll protect you, we'll watch out for you, we'll protect you against your number one enemy, Israel.
And why were they afraid of Israel?
Well, because Israel's right there. They're the ones that had all of the power. I mean, they're so close to them that they're the ones that are most likely to cause a problem for them.
Well, there was a prime minister called Golda Meir.
Well,
she says Moses led the Israelites to the promised land, except there's no oil here. And so what Saudi Arabia was afraid of, again, it was this word here, war. There was a 67 war, and Israel cleaned house in 6 days. They took out the most powerful Saudi Muslim country in the world, Egypt. They just cleaned clock in 6 days. So that's why in 1967, the entire Muslim world was afraid that Israel would come in and take their oil.
Exactly. Kissinger goes over and says, all we want to do, you don't have to pay us any money, nothing. All we want you to do is, we want to make sure that anybody who buys oil from you has to buy it in dollars.
U.S. dollars.
U.S. dollars. Once they did that, once they made that agreement, and Saudi Arabia was shocked. They thought we'd want more than that. So that's all you want? You just want people to buy our oil in dollars? Yep, that's all we want. Once they did that, now you have this huge demand for dollars that wasn't there because once it was taken off the gold standard, right? So now we have this huge demand for dollars because now we call that the petrodollar.
Right. So it went from the gold dollar to the petrodollar, and today the world is on the dollar standard. And what that meant is, let's say Japan wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, they had to sell us Sony TVs and Toyotas, so we'd send them dollars so that they could buy oil.
That's right.
So it's not about oil, it is about money. And we're at war now because the U.S. wants to protect the U.S. dollar.
Right. Well, it's very simple. Any FBI agent can tell you, if you want to see what's going on, follow the money. And that's really what you have to do, is follow the money. And the money, when you look at what's going on, you got to understand that every single thing to do with oil is all about money. It's about the U.S. dollar.
So many Americans think that we're a rich country, because we're hardworking and we're smart and we're good looking and we have Hollywood. And that's partly true. But the real reason America is so rich is the world, since 1974, has been required to trade in U.S. dollars. Now, the reason this is spooky is because today we're at war. As I said, back in 1914, England wanted one little city. It was called Mesopotamia. Today it's called Iraq. So what Tom and I are saying is nothing has changed. Again, in 74, the dollar shifted from gold to petrodollars. This is the problem. Is just last year, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's a prime minister of Israel, came to talk to President Obama. And President Obama said, to you, why? And then recently, on 60 Minutes, our television show, they had this big television show that the 9/11 Commission is not releasing what really happened during the attack at the World Trade Center. And what most people know is that there are 19 hijackers. 14 were Saudis. They were not Iraqi. They were not Afghanistan. They were Saudis. So anyway, let's repeat. Netanyahu comes to the States last year, 2015. This year, people are suing the Saudi government saying, we want you to disclose who really caused the attack on the World Trade Center on 9/11. And so Obama had to fly all the way to Saudi Arabia, and the king of Saudi Arabia didn't meet with him.
No, in fact, it was some low-level dignitary that met with him.
He was like a mayor of some Saudi Arabian town. It was like to Obama. Now, the reason this is important is if we go to war and the UN, Saudi Arabia says we're not going to trade in dollars anymore, the U.S. comes down or crashes. So 2016 may come true for other reasons. Any comments on that?
Well, I mean, think about it. The only reason that the dollar is so strong, I mean, it's the strongest currency in the world.
In history.
And why is that? I mean, it's not backed by gold. It's there because it's backed by oil. People have to have dollars. And so in order to get dollars, they have to sell things to the U.S., they have to export to the U.S. Somehow they actually have to find those dollars. They have to get dollars. Well, if they don't have to get those dollars anymore, what happens to the dollar? It loses all of its clout and goes.
So in America, $1 million house may suddenly be worth $500,000. Not that people care for the rich, but the whole economy shrinks because the dollar goes down in value. Once again, please remember oil, money, and war. Pearl Harbor was caused because the U.S. cut Japan off of oil. Vietnam was a war because America wanted to make sure China didn't get Vietnam's oil. And the reason that China ships us so many cheap products is so that we'll ship them dollars to buy oil. If you can understand that, it's really about not peace and democracy and all. It's about money, war, and oil. For example, during World War I, the war that Hitler fought in, they used horses. A horse ate 3 times more than 30 soldiers. And so the horse was not very efficient. But at the same time, Germany and the world was going to tanks and trucks, not horses. So World War II, it became very, very important that Germany had oil, Europe had oil, and America had oil. Any comments on that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what war. I mean, this is what's fascinating. You go back to any war, and what is it? It's about the oil. Ever since ever since World War I, if you're talking about oil, you go, well, wait a minute. If it's about oil, maybe I need to understand oil because oil's tied to money. And what happens if the dollar goes down? Well, really happening, that's really another word for inflation. That means that the dollar's not worth as much, so that everything you buy costs more money.
As in the United States, the dollars from all over the world, because right now banks are holding dollars in their treasuries.
That's right.
But if they don't have to use dollars to buy oil, they don't need our dollars, that money comes back into the United States. There may be hyperinflation. There may also be a collapse. That's why 2016 is such an important year. And that's why it's important to study, to understand, to pay attention. Like I said, Tom and I will be traveling throughout the world talking to different groups, and we'll be talking about financial education. But really, we're talking about oil, money, war, and taxes, right?
That's right.
So once again, Tom and I will be traveling. We'll be talking about oil, taxes, money, war, but most importantly, what you can do. Because let me give you one more idea. This old saying that history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. Remember, World War II, the attack on Pearl Harbor, was about oil. The attack with Germany wanted oil because this is World War II, 1939, because they knew if they didn't have oil, they couldn't feed their tanks. World War I was about horses. So if you understand how history has been changing, so one of the reasons that Hitler has Romania and also took in the Kazakhstan, the Caucasus area, because they're loaded with oil. So if you think it's about freeing people and all that, it's about oil feeding war machinery, and war can conquer other countries and take their money. There's one more thing I want you to think about, and it comes from these books here. It's called Myth, Lies, and Oil and War. Fantastic book. And this book here is Preparing for the Collapse of the Petrodollar System. In other words, sweethearts, 2016, or Rich Dad's prophecy, may be coming true. So let me leave you with this other thought about what's happened throughout history. Again, 14 out of 19 of the hijackers were Saudi Arabians. They weren't Iraqis. So the question is, why did they kill Saddam Hussein? Saddam Hussein didn't attack us. Saudi Arabians attacked us. But the reason Hussein was taken out was because in 1999, this new currency came into the world, challenging the US dollar, and it was called the euro. So in 1999, the euro comes out, and Saddam Hussein says, oh, good. I'm not going to trade my oil for dollars anymore. I'm going to sell my oil for euro. This is in 2000, and poof, he's dead. You see, the moment you start messing with the real powers of the world, the people that control oil and money and the military, if you mess with how they make money, poof, you're dead. And then there was this guy named Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. Now, what people may not know, Libya has great oil. It's very, very good. You know, people have high demand for Libyan oil. But Gaddafi had this good idea. He says, I think I'll sell my oil not in dollars, but in dinars. And poof. I know he was a crook and all that stuff, but poof, he's dead. And then there was a little thing called Benghazi, and Hillary Clinton was involved in it. And it's like magic. Gaddafi's taken out. No more dinars, no selling oil in dinars. But Libya suddenly has a central bank. I don't know if you think that's interesting, but it takes a long time to set up a central bank. But bam, it was ready to go the moment Gaddafi was dead. And then this guy, bin Laden, he was hanging out in Afghanistan. He didn't own much oil, I don't think. He was Saudi, but you know what I mean? But he upset somebody, so poof, he gets taken out. Any comments?
Well, again, I'm an accountant. Follow the money. And if you see, what the good thing about understanding something like the petrodollar and gold and how these all play together is, once you understand them, then you can do something different in your life. This is not just about, okay, well, this is really interesting history. This is about what you do in your life. If you can predict the future, you can make money, right? And if you understand the past, you're going to have a much better time at predicting the future. That's the whole idea of Rich Dad Prophecy. That's what I loved about Rich Dad Prophecy.
And it's about taxes. Now, let me say this much. I said it before, okay? If I gave Tom $1 million, 100,000, or 10,000, I would get about 80% back. And 80% return with net is about 35%.
Right.
Okay. And what happened was, because there were such great tax incentives for people like me and private citizens to go after oil, we started drilling more and more in the United States. It's called fracking. And we discovered so much oil by horizontal drilling and water flushing and all this, that suddenly oil became too much. And the price of oil dropped, not necessarily because there was too much oil, but because Saudi Arabia didn't like the idea that we were producing oil. Now, most oil companies are owned by government or the very rich, not by the people. In America, many of the oil wells are owned by the people like me, small investors. So the reason Tom is important in this, because of the tax breaks, what happened?
Well, so because of the tax breaks, what happens is that now we've got an incentive. On top of this, by the way, we have research and development tax credits for the fracking. There's all sorts of business tax benefits. So it's this combination of benefits. Now people put a lot of money into the oil industry. Once you have a lot of money into the oil industry, now there's a reason to develop these new technologies. Once you have the new technologies, so much oil, now Saudi Arabia, they're not so happy with this whole petrodollar system, right? So it's a very fragile balance here that's going on in the world between producing oil in the U.S. The Saudis decide, well, we don't like that. We're going to tank the price. So they hit the price. People think it was because of Russia, but it was really because of the U.S., right? They wanted to attack the U.S. dollars.
The government tells Tom, find guys like me. I drill for oil. They give me tax breaks.
That's right.
And we did a great job. So now America is less dependent upon petrodollars, Saudi Arabia dollars. At the same time, Barack Obama pulls back our troops. Now, any guy who went to military school, which I did, knows this. When you pull back a force like the military, that sets up a vacuum. And in that vacuum comes terrorism.
That's right.
And that's what's going on right now. Once again, For those of you born in this era of time, it's about oil, and oil is important because energy is how civilization grows. It's about money, and it's about war, and it's about taxes. So once again, Tom and I will be going to different parts of the world. We're doing seminars, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes for a couple of days. But this is an idea of what we talk about. We don't really talk about picking stocks or real estate and all this. I think it's this time of history, especially in 2016, I think it's very important to understand the big picture and figure out what's going on where you live. Any comments?
Well, this is what I refer to as fundamental financial education. I mean, this is really the basics. You know, you say the basics is balancing your checkbook, and that's not the basics, okay? This is the basics. This is the fundamental. Understand that if you want to know what the policy is of your country, look at the tax law. If you want to know, okay, what should I be doing? What does the government want me to do? Look at your tax law, because it's true in every country. So if the government wants you to drill for oil, they're going to give you tax breaks for oil. If they want you to increase your business and build a business, they're going to give you tax breaks for business. Okay, so always look at what does the government want you to do? That's where the tax breaks are.
But one more thing to understand. Many economies, such as Russia and all that, their economy on taxes is based upon $100 oil.
That's right.
So if oil today is around $40 as we speak, suddenly that means that's like you making a $10,000 a month paycheck, and suddenly you come home, you're only making $4,000. So this drop in oil price was virtually an oil war going on throughout the world right now. So you're suddenly making $10,000 a month, and you come home and you say, congratulations, you're now making $4,000. That's driving Russia to war, because they have to go to war to distract the upset of the economy inside the people there. China right now is cutting a deal with Russia, doing their best to ship Russian oil into China. So this whole thing is setting up, in my opinion, possibly for war. We're already at war. It's like I said in 1914, it was the English government that wanted a little town called Mosul and a country called Mesopotamia. Today, ISIS is in Mosul and Mesopotamia. They can't fight ISIS in Mosul. They're too strong because they're defending oil. Comments?
Again, I mean, if I wanted to know what was going on in the world, I'd be looking at the real underpinnings, what's really happening there. And that's why understanding the petrodollars, understanding taxes, understanding what the government wants you to do. I listen to this and I'm learning this stuff. I mean, we talk about this stuff all the time. We're always learning something new. You can never learn too much about what's going on in the world.
So once again, this is what Rich Dad stands for. We don't give you stock tips or if you had 10,000, what you should do with it. Financial education is first looking at the big picture, looking at debt, money, taxes, economy, and all this. So let me go back to Rich Dad's prophecy about 2016. In his book, The Only Game in Town, Muhammad Al-Aryan, interesting, his name is Muhammad,
yes,
but he is very well respected. I mean, every time he speaks, I listen to him, I read his books. And he is known for bonds. His company was PIMCO, one of the biggest bond companies in the world. Very respected, very brilliant man on Obama's committee for the economy. But again, I'll repeat what I said. Al-Aryan says we have 3 years or less, and his book came out in 2016. So what he said in his book was that we are at a T-junction. This is a T-junction. English economists call it a T-junction. What a T-junction means is we're at the end of the road. We can't go any farther. What he is saying is that the central banks, that is the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, the U.S. Federal Reserve, Bank of China, they cannot do any more. This economy cannot grow just with manipulation of money. So we're at a T-junction. So let me show you what a T-junction looks like. So this here is what a T-junction looks like. If you look at it, it starts in 1895. This is the Dow. It goes all the way up to 2000. 2000 is the start of the T-junction. The dot-com crashes. It bounces back up. It drops again in 2007 with a real estate crash. It goes back up, and today we're at 2016. Notice how high we are at 2016. We have had 3 major crashes in the first 10 years of this 21st century. 3 major crashes. Now let me show you this next chart. This is the chart here of the giant crash of 1929. Compare that crash to the 3 big crashes starting in the 2000, 2007, and 2008, and now where we are today at 2016. Again, this is a T-junction. The question is, what is going to happen now? That is the question. And the reason Tom and I and some of the other advisors are going around the world talking to people is very simply because if you're doing the same old thing, if you think saving money is smart, take a look at that chart again. The reason that chart is that high is because they printed money. That's the reason it's so high. It's called quantitative easing. As L. Arian says, with a T-junction, it can't go much higher. There's another man named Jim Rickards. His book is written, it's called The New Case for Gold. Have you read that book?
I have.
Why don't you give your summary of it?
So basically, he's saying, what I understand Rickards to say, is that gold is really what
real money.
It's real money, and it's stable. Okay, we don't produce a lot more of it. It's not used for other things. Okay, so it's a good stable value. Okay, it's a good stable value. Well, what he's saying is that, look, what's going to happen? Well, if you have all of the dollar collapses and the euro collapses, what are you going to do? Well, Rickards says that what we're going to end up with is the IMF's going to create its new international money.
World money is called.
World money. And who's going to get to decide what happens with that new money? It's going to be those who own the gold. It's the golden rule, right? He who owns the gold makes the rules. And so you see China buying up gold. You
Russia.
see Germany, Russia. They're all getting their gold because they want a seat at that table. They want to be able to make the rules for the new world economy.
So that's why Tom and I are going around this year. It is 2016. It is, as L. Arian says, the T-junction. Look at the chart of the Dow. Those tops over there, it's basically a triple top in many ways. It means the next direction is down. And if it goes down, the odds are they will continue to print money. So for those of you who have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, here, hope you did, lesson number 1 is the rich don't work for money. I also said your house is not an asset and savers would be losers. If you're saving money, working hard for money, and trying to flip real estate, you might get hammered right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying we don't know what's going to happen. The world has never been at such a massive T-junction ever before. So Russia's in trouble, China's in trouble, Saudi Arabia's in trouble, America's in trouble. I mean, just today, Puerto Rico announced it's not going to pay its bills anymore. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. But it's going to be a good time no matter what happens because, as most people know, when markets crash, that's the best time to get rich.
That's right.
So we're not trying to scare you about 2016. We're doing our best to prepare you. As I said, we'll be going around the world talking about debt, taxes, the economy. We'll be showing you slides and pictures of what's going on. But most importantly, it's time to get educated and not believe what your mommy and daddy told you. Work hard, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term in the stock market. People who do that will be the biggest losers in the next few years. Final words on this thing?
Well, I think that right now ignorance is the biggest risk because what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to bet my life on what the Federal Reserve does. I'm going to bet my life on the central banks. I'm going to bet my life that China is going to behave properly and that they're not going to cause any problems. Really? That's what you want to bet your life on? The reality is the central banks, they're out of bullets. There's just not much left for them to do. And so understanding how this works, understanding how money works, how gold works, how the petrodollar works, understanding how debt works, because debt is that's the single biggest hedge, right? I mean, it's even better than gold. Hedging against hyperinflation is debt. how debt works and how taxes work, when you understand all these things, now you can make money when the crisis happens instead of lose money when the crisis happens. And that's why we're taking time out of our schedules, we're traveling, is because we want you to understand and be prepared for this so that you have this opportunity. Is, yeah, a lot of people are going to lose money, but a lot of people are going to make money. It's your choice to decide where you are.
So don't be stupid. Don't think that because last year you were successful, that you went to college, you have a college degree. Oh, I have a job, I don't have to worry. Oh, I'm saving money. Oh, my house is paid for. Oh, I don't have to worry, I have a nice car. Those are the worst things that will cause many people to lose. And it's not so much that you lose. You won't be prepared to take advantage of what comes next. Those who are living on yesterday's success, oh, I have a college degree. Oh, I'm making $250,000 a year. Oh, I have $100,000 in savings. Oh, I have stock market. You may be the very person who will take the fall the biggest. So that's why Tom and I and some of our advisors in different countries will be going around talking to people about what really is financial education and why are the rich really getting richer. It's not money that's making them richer, it's financial education. Comments?
Well, that's right. It's not because they make a lot of money that they pay lower taxes. Because they have financial education, they pay lower taxes. There are a lot of people who earn a lot of money that pay really high taxes because they're not financially educated, right? So it's all about financial education. What are you doing with your money? How are you making your money? I mean, how you make your money affects how much tax you pay. So remember that all money is not created equal, and the more you understand about it, the more money you get to keep.
For instance, I have a number of friends who make a lot of money. I have one friend who makes $1 million a year. I go, right. Whoa. And for most people, that's a lot. Unfortunately, they pay $700,000 in taxes. So what is he doing? He makes $1 million a year, pays $700,000 in taxes. He's going back to school to make more money. You're going, duh. He's not going to learn anything about taxes, debt, inflation, currencies, and that's what Tom and I will be talking about. I have another friend who owns a whole series of salons. He makes a lot of money because he doesn't do hair, but he has a lot of people working for him. And he's bitching and bitching and bitching about the taxes he pays. But when I tell him what he has to do, he goes, that's too much trouble. I'd rather pay the taxes. That's a loser. So if that's the kind of people you are, then this is a very important time for you to increase your financial education. I'm not saying it's easy. But I'm saying we better be prepared because this is 2016. And some of the smartest people I know are saying it's coming down. This is a T-junction. Look at the Dow. That is a T-junction. Something is going to change. So with that, we thank you for listening so far. Now for further words.
Thanks so much. We're looking forward to seeing you. Those of you who are joining us, whether it's by video or whether it's in person, we look forward to helping you with your financial education.
This is about financial education. It's not about money. Thank you.
This event is brought to you by Rich Dad Coaching. The rich didn't get where they are by doing the same thing everyone else does. They have vision. They know when to take action and surround themselves with a strong team of mentors and advisors. Take the first steps towards success and invest in yourself by getting your own Rich Dad coach. Your coach will work with you one-on-one to create and execute a personalized cash flow plan, develop the skills you need, and hold you accountable to your plan to achieve financial freedom. Get the financial education you need. Get a Rich Dad coach. To help you get started right away, click on any of the coaching banners below and get 6 months free with any coaching program.
Hi Robert, my name is Joseph Callan. It's a pleasure to be able to record a video that you will see. You're a bit of a hero to me because you put yourself out there so that other people can follow in your footsteps and create wealth for themselves. I love your books and I'm reading through them as fast as I can, and I also love your recommended list and I'm reading through them as fast as I can. I just want to start with a big thanks for the course and everything in it. It's been awesome, it's been a real blessing, so thank you. The course is fantastic. You couldn't ask for a better course even if you'd wanted it. You learn at a good pace, the coaches are right there beside you. to help you through any moments of doubt that you may have, and it's a real hands-on system that I haven't been a part of before, almost like a family. The information in the course is priceless. I've never been so wowed by information ever. It's practical, it makes sense, it's fantastic. He's my coach, and he's been great. A champion, an encouragement, whipcracker to keep me on top of my homework, but also to answer the deeper questions about how things are done and how it all comes together. Fantastic system, fantastic mentor. Anyone who is watching, the hope that this brings is worth money alone. Not to mention the life changes for the better, the amazing support for your mentor as you go through the course, and the financial tips that you get along the way is totally worth it. The course is great, fantastic. You need to get in on this, and you need to change your financial future because only you can. Robert, thanks again for creating this course and for teaching others, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hi, I'm Glenda van Blurk from Cape Town, South Africa, and I've recently completed the Rich Dad coaching program, Choose to Be Rich International Real Estate. I've always thought to myself, what does Robert say? What would Robert say about the South African real estate scenario? And I got the opportunity to find out when I was introduced to the Rich Dad International Coaching Program and decided to give myself the training and just invest in myself and my own financial intelligence, and then really got stuck into how real estate really works, how to be a savvy investor, how to increase my financial education and skills. And it's been a life-changing experience. I must say I was terrified at the beginning, just the thought of speaking to someone who I don't know, and being a bit of an introvert. I know you wouldn't think so, but that's true. But I have learned so much in the last 6 months, and I have a lot of confidence in my real estate dealings now. Besides the real estate benefits, just learning to properly structure a business has been fantastic for me. But now that I know about the BI triangle and how to correctly structure a business, I'm full of confidence, and I know that the business I'm developing now will be taken to the degree where I can step back from it and it can become another passive kind of income for myself going forward. So I want to encourage anybody who's contemplating working with the Rich Dad organization, don't hesitate. Really invest in yourself. It's you couldn't spend better money or time or energy. I had a really fantastic coach, understanding, knowledgeable, and really and truly helpful to me. So I enjoyed interacting with him very much. So thank you, Robert, Kim, and everybody at the Rich Dad organization.
So I'm here at my friend's company, American Precious Metals. And I'll tell you why I'm here. As I said, this book came out in 2002, I believe. So in 2016, the biggest stock market crash was coming. And then that's the reason we started the Rich Dad Company. The reason we started the Rich Dad Company is this stuff is trash. This is what people work for, money. And here's an example of why it's not worth working for. It's a Zimbabwe dollar. I think it's $10 million here. This one is $10 billion. And this is the same thing the US dollar is doing right now. Really what's causing the big fluctuations in the world economy, there's many reasons, but one of them is because we're printing money. This stuff is printed. Some of you may know Greece is in very big trouble, but America and Greece are in the same problem. The only difference in Greece and America is America keeps borrowing money, but we can also print money to pay our bills. And Greece cannot print money. And that's why they're in bankruptcy. The trouble with America today is America is bankrupt. And the way I know that is we're actually borrowing money and printing money to pay the interest on the money we owe. That would be like you borrowing money to pay your credit card bills. It's absolutely crazy. So the question is, what can a person do? And that's how I wrote Second Chance here. And this came out in 2015. But what everybody can do, I don't care if you're rich, poor, smart, or stupid, is at this time in history, it would make a lot of sense. I'm not suggesting you do it, I'm not telling you to do it. But at this time in history, you may want to look at precious metals. So today, like I said, I'm in my friend's company, American Precious Metals. This is where I purchase my gold and silver from. But I'm also going to be talking to them as to what you look for in a good dealer. The point here is everybody can do something. Don't just sit there and save this garbage. This is absolutely garbage. Stocks are absolutely garbage also, because they can just print it and manipulate it. What you want is stuff that's real. So with that, I'm going to bring up my friend Jerry Williams. Jerry, would you please come out, please? Thank you for letting us use your showroom.
Oh, you bet. Good to
And
see
here,
you.
we're right here, pretty close to my house, on Camelback in Phoenix,
Across
Arizona.
the fairway.
How long have you been in this business of precious
Well,
metals?
I got into this business in 1973.
And you were
as
in
a
stocks
professional.
before, weren't you?
In between, actually. I took 12 years out of this market from
Okay.
from 82 to 94. And it was very difficult to make a living in this business at that
In
time.
metals.
In metals. Yeah, they were going nowhere. So.
Why'd you get into it?
My brother-in-law started out in a little business called Arizona Coin Exchange and hired me as I was the first salesman. And it was very easy to sell. I'd already been an investor. I doubled my money in gold from $60 to $120.
Right.
So I was very enthusiastic about it and made pretty good money at it. But by 1982, after having been to $800 and then back to $600, you could kind of tell it was temporarily over. So I went across the street to Merrill Lynch when the Dow was 800.
I see.
And got a job as a stockbroker.
I see.
So I rode that wave for 12 years.
And which do you like better, stocks or precious metals?
Oh, I like the metals better. I mean, they are real. A stock, of course, as you know, is just a
Manipulated.
piece of paper.
Yeah.
They do get manipulated. They do sell at variables, sometimes having no relation to the underlying product that they're
Right.
putting out. So,
Because they can print it.
right.
So they're good. You know, how long, you and I have known about 20 years now.
20. Yeah, I've owned this business 21 years, and
Yeah.
you were one of my first customers
Yeah.
back then, 1994.
And the reason for those know why I work with Jerry is because he's and I are kind of old timers.
That's
I
right.
bought my first gold in 1973,
Yeah.
and it was about $70. You know, wish I still had it. But we've seen it simply because we don't trust the dollar. Is that correct?
Right. And it worked out pretty well against inflation.
Right. So, you and I talk about it a lot, but there's a lot of dealers who are not really in this business, are they? Or they advertise gold and silver, but they're not really here to sell you gold and silver.
Well, you can't even press them because they'll tell you to buy a gold bar or a Krugerrand, and then when you call up, usually the salesman who has an incentive to sell you something more expensive may decide to offer you something for about double the price of gold, which might be a good deal if you're a coin collector.
Yeah, this is called numismatic.
Right.
I mean, it's an old coin.
Yeah, this is a 1908 St. Gaudens. It looks very much like the 2015 Silver Eagle. And that doesn't mean it's nothing, that this is not good. It's just, it's for collectors. And what'll happen is the person who's buying it suddenly will see the gold price go down and get panicky
And
and
sell
in the sell list, thinking that they'll get $30, $40 less than they paid for it, and it turned out that the markup just
Right.
disappears. So
if you go to a coin dealer like you, not you, but and they want to sell you a collectible coin, numismatic, what would you say?
well, to the average person who doesn't know anything about that, they should probably avoid it. I mean, the nice thing about gold is you can look in a newspaper and you can tell what the price is. You can go on television, you can see the price. You can go on the internet. When you get down to the rare coins, now you've got a narrower market, and then you've got a narrower place to sell, and there's more chance for loss.
Right.
Yeah.
So please, I don't buy the collectible coins. I just buy this. And does it take a lot of money to get into this?
Well, we don't have any minimums. You can buy a 10th ounce piece like this, like the size of a dime. I can show you one.
Well, here's-
$130, and of course these are $3.50 a piece.
This is an old silver coin that's pre-1964. So it was 25 cents when it came out. Now it's $3.50, right?
Right.
Right.
And that's cheap too, because when silver was $50, they were like about $8 a piece.
Right.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, you know, I don't have any money to get started, for $3.50, I think everybody throughout the world could buy something.
Something.
Yeah, you just have to find a reputable dealer like Jerry. So, what would you explain what this is here?
This is a $5 1/10 ounce gold piece minted at the U.S. Mint in West Point. It's 1/10 the size of the 1 ounce coin, but the price at $130 means that if you bought 10 of them, you'd pay $1,300 for an ounce versus $1,220 for the 1 ounce piece. So there is a premium involved because obviously the mint has the labor cost to make 10 of these instead of 10 of these. So it is worth it though if you don't have enough money to pony up for a full 1 ounce. And if you think you might have to spend this at face value someday, it would be easier to get change.
And these are silver eagles, right?
Right. 1 ounce of silver, currently about $19 a piece, about $4 over the spot price.
What is spot?
Spot is the price that you would pay at the moment on any commodity, and it's based on the forward contracts that expire, say, in 6 months and work backwards to today. So that's a
But
volume
the spot
price.
is all over the world, right?
That's right, and the spot price is the same all over the world. Otherwise, you could buy here and sell in China and keep the difference.
See, that's what I like about it. There's no monkeying around. You know, this is X, $20, let's say here, and it's $20 in China.
Right.
$20 in Europe.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
real
that
money.
spot price, by the way, represents a 5,000 ounce contract.
And what is this here?
This is a 100 ounce bar of silver, pure silver. Weighs about 7 pounds. It's 100 ounces. And it sells right now for just under $1,700.
Okay. And then we have this here. What is this?
This is called a monster box,
These
which
are my
weighs
favorite.
about 35 pounds.
My favorite. I love these
It
things.
has 25 of these rolls of 20 each, so there's 500 pieces in there. Sells right now for about $9,700, just under $10,000.
So it's under $10,000.
Right. Very popular. In fact, right now the supply line is about 3 to 4 weeks out, which means you have to come in and pay for them. Get a paid receipt. The price is guaranteed, but you just have to wait 3 to 4 weeks until they get here because
mean
the
the-
mint is behind.
The mint cannot produce
They
enough
can't
right
produce
now.
fast enough. Yeah, we're going to set another record this year. Last year, there was 45 million of these coins sold. Just in July alone, almost 6 million. Just in July.
This year.
Last month, this year. So they're going to set another record. It'll be way beyond the 45 million. So given the demand and the fact that it's 3 to 4 weeks to get these, it's worse even in Canada. It's 5 to 6 weeks now to get the silver maple leaves. The obvious question is, well, if it's this valuable, how come the price is so cheap? And the fact is that you're paying $4.50 over spot to buy these now and having to wait. The price is determined, as I was almost going to get into, by futures contracts, which is something we have no control over. This is done by professional traders. They control the price. We have to reflect what the real market is here. Physical
So-
market.
That's my point here is, you think the dollar's going to be around much longer? I mean,
Well, it's the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry, which is the way I put it, because everybody's going to it because there's no other option. Everyone is devaluing as fast as they can against each other, including
Right.
China.
China just devalued, means the U.S. had better start devaluing, right?
Yeah, eventually all these currencies are going to wind up like this one.
The Zimbabwe.
$100 trillion.
So the thing is, I don't save money anymore. I've been in precious metals for a long time. This to me is just trash, like putting cabbage in my pocket.
Yeah, spend it.
Just spending money.
You can't save it because you lose money.
But this is what I hold. Let me ask you this: how does a person hold precious metals?
Well, you hold them physically because if you let go of it, you really don't own it anymore. I mean, if you put it in a bank safe deposit box, there's always that confiscation type of risk. In fact, if you look at the fine print of your new safe deposit box agreement, it says right in there, I agree not to hold precious metals or cash.
Why are they
In
doing
my-
that?
That's a good question. I don't think that well, first, there's two things. Number one, these are heavy, and there's been cases where the little girl letting you into the safe deposit area drops one on her foot trying to get it out of the box. That's one thing. But secondly, I think it's a further effort by government to discredit the whole industry.
Right.
We are now on a list of 30 industries at the banks that they don't want. They won't even open an account for you if you're a money lender, payday lender, pawn, And now we're in there with jewelers and all, the whole bunch now. So, you know, I've had one bank already close my account. And they got their orders from headquarters, do not want any accounts that says precious metals on them.
What Jerry is saying is there is kind of a war against this, against that.
Exactly.
And if you're either believing in this or you're believing in that.
Hard money.
Yeah, and Jerry and I have believed in this more than this. Because that chart I showed you has lost 95% of its value the last 100 years. It's not going to take another 100 years to lose the last 5.
No, everything's moving at light speed nowadays.
Right. So how would they hold it then? Would they hold it in a safe or something at home, or
A safe at home, put in by somebody that you know, put it in by yourself.
don't tell anybody?
Right, and there are private storage facilities. We have one right here in Phoenix in the side of a mountain. Very reliable, been there for over 50 years. So private storage, there are some private vaults available. It's not cheap, but that would be, if you don't want to hold it at home for fear of home invasions or fires or whatever, then find private storage for it.
Right. So again, I'll just say this much: is Rich Dad's prophecy is correct, and the stock market keeps coming down, and it's coming down primarily, in my opinion, because nobody trusts this stuff anymore. You know, the Chinese are devaluing this. I don't know why anybody would even work for this stuff. And so this is your second chance here. It just came out in January 15. And even if you don't have much money, you can start with $3.50, right?
Yeah, some people have minimums of $5,000. Some won't take cash, or all sorts of restrictions now. The whole industry is beginning to change. We have no minimums, so.
Right. And you're looking for a person like Jerry who's been in it for years. He's not in here to cheat you. You have your old clientele like me, and we're always buying. You don't find me selling, do you?
You've never sold anything to
No.
me.
I don't sell.
By the way, that's why we don't advertise. Half our business is from personal referrals. The other half is off the internet.
Right.
So we don't
So
need to advertise.
how can people get in touch with you then?
Our phone number, 800-522-GOLD, is easy to remember.
800-522-GOLD.
Yeah.
What's your website?
Jerry, well, it's APM, our company initials, apmaz.com.
American Precious Metals.
American Precious Metals, AZ, Arizona. apmaz.com.
So I want to thank you. Thanks for your education.
Oh,
Thanks
you
for all
bet.
the years.
Anytime. Good to see you again.
And for those of you out there, I'm not recommending, I'm not saying to do it, but I would consider it, because they're going to just keep printing this. Remember, America is bankrupt. And the only difference between America and Greece or Argentina is that we can print money. They cannot. Japan is printing money, China's printing money, Europe's printing money.
They're buying their own debt. Do you believe that?
Yeah. They're actually, Greece just borrowed money to pay the interest on the debt they owe.
Right.
In other words, the bank says you can borrow more money, but you have to pay us back now. It's a Ponzi scheme. You know,
yeah. It'd be funny
it
if
is
it
so
wasn't
bad.
tragic.
You know, I just can't believe what's going on right now. So we're printing money to pay the interest on our debt. If that's not a bad sign, I don't know what is. So thank you, Jerry.
You bet.
Thank you back there.